For about as long as computers and the networks connecting them have been capable of sending images, artists have been using them to publish comics. And for only slightly less time than that, many of those comics have been about gamers. No matter how technology advances or how the webcomic format changes, one of the universal constants seems to be that video games and the people who play them will always be one of the dominant subjects of the medium. I spent many good procrastinating hours in my youth binge reading webcomics of varying quality, and I'm still an avid reader of a few really good ones. I've got a real soft spot in my heart for the medium, and I even tried to create one or two of my own at one point or another, but my job of video-based anime talker-abouter doesn't really lend itself to exploring this particular medium in depth. So when Webtoon, one of the biggest free webcomic portals online, reached out offering to sponsor a review of one of the comics on their platform, I jumped at the opportunity. If you're unfamiliar, the Webtoon is a webcomic format that breaks the traditional media constraints of pages and comic strips in favor of long, vertically oriented layouts that sometimes incorporate things like music and animations. It's a format purpose-built for easy reading on scrolling browsers and, serendipitously, even better suited to the vertical screens of smartphones. The Webtoon app allows you to read hundreds of comics in various genres on the go, totally free, with updates coming out every day. You can subscribe to your favorite comics to easily keep track of them, leave comments and ratings for the creators, and even download chapters to your phone so that you can read them when you don't have internet. Since Webtoon launched worldwide in 2014, it has exploded in popularity with over 50 million monthly active users globally. And it goes without saying that one of the most popular comics on the platform right now is about video games. But Let's Play is a very different beast from the simplistic video game parody comics you might be used to. One that depicts the trials and tribulations of gaming, game development, and running a YouTube channel with more accuracy and honesty than I ever expected, albeit filtered through an exaggerated lens of shoujo anime and K-drama tropes. The premise is a classic shoujo romance setup with a gamer-friendly, social media-savvy twist. Sam Young is an aspiring indie game developer who spent all her free time in college working on Ruminate, a fantasy adventure puzzle game that she released for free on a social site called Indiegeneer to a small but positive reception. 100 downloads and a score of 8.2 out of 10 ain't bad for a first attempt, and Sam was pretty happy with that modest success. That all changed when her game was picked up by famous Let's Player Martial Law, who, well, basically played it wrong, blaming his mistakes on the game and causing it to be review-bombed into oblivion by his rabid and misguided fanbase. Suddenly, Sam's indie dev career seems like it's over before it's begun, and to make matters worse, the man who destroyed her has just become her new next-door neighbor. So you got a geeky young girl who lacks self-confidence and has just had her life tangled up with a handsome rich guy who she hates. If you've seen a K-drama or read a romance manga before, you can probably see where this is going, but it's the path that we take to get there, the people we meet along the way, and the attention that it pays to the small details that make Let's Play special. Let's Play is written and drawn by Mongi, a coder turned concept artist whose past work includes doing banner art and t-shirts for Markiplier. So when telling a story about a coder who wants to pursue the artistic field of game development and has a friendship with a famous VTuber, she seems to be writing what she knows. And speaking as a YouTuber with a game design degree, it really shows. I don't do the Let's Play thing myself, at least not yet, and I'm nowhere near 3 million subscribers, but I can say that Marshall reminds me of a lot of people I know. The genuine love that he feels for his fanbase, while also being more than a little stressed out by the things they do on his behalf, is something that I think anyone who's had a sizable audience for any length of time can relate to. Plus, specific things like having to deal with inadequate equipment after a move or blowing your voice out in an overlong live stream definitely make me think, yeah, I've been there. In a Q&A, Mongi said that she based Marshall off of her perception of what popular YouTubers are like in person, and I believe it. He gives off the impression that he's always on to some extent, but there's clear vulnerability underneath that. He's quirky, he's got layers, and even if I couldn't personally relate to him, I'm pretty sure I'd be really invested in Marshall as a character. He's a very well-developed love interest. Likewise, Sam is a rock-solid lead character, and equally relatable, especially to anyone who's ever sunk hours into adventure games and RPGs, or dealt with social anxiety. Her vulnerabilities are a lot more obvious. She kind of wears that anxiety and insecurity on her sleeve, but likewise, she's layered. Though she's not great at standing up for herself, she's very capable of standing up for others. It's buried, but she's got inner strength that makes it clear why all of her friends love her so much, and makes you want to see her grow and let more of it out. For her day job, Sam works as a programmer at her father's company, and not only does the comic nail the general atmosphere of working in software development, it also really gets the minutia down. Early on, Sam has a conversation with a coworker about designing a program's GUI to accommodate colorblind users that just feels, well, like exactly the kind of conversation you'd have on a real development project. And when Sam eventually opens up to her coworkers about the problems caused by the review nuking of her Indie-Engineer profile, they come up with a very programmery potential solution. The writer's experience working with coders and being one herself lends the dialogue in these parts of the story a lot of authenticity. On that note, you expect a gaming webcomic to at least get the gaming part of the equation right, the slang, the game mechanics, the memes, and Let's Play gets that all down pat. But instead of just featuring random video game parodies where the punchline is invariably violence, the comic uses its game references as metaphors, showing how Sam contextualizes the world around her through a gamer lens. So the humdrum morning routine that she zombie stumbles her way through every day, showering, getting coffee, and heading to work, is framed like a simple mobile game or RPG, something she doesn't really have to think about. When she hides to avoid confrontation, she sees the stealth UI from Skyrim. When she finds out a friend has secrets, she sees him surrounded by psych-locks from Phoenix Wright. These aren't just in-jokes for cheap laughs. The video game nods help us to understand the characters through shared experiences and points of reference. Funny enough, since the focus of the narrative is squarely on character interactions, actual games in this gaming webcomic only really show up in the background of conversations. The only game we see played extensively is an online RPG that Sam plays with her best friends, and while the mechanics and lingo do a good job of representing the experience of playing an MMO, the main purpose of these scenes is to serve as a unique backdrop to conversations and character drama. Of course, character drama is only as good as the characters involved, and thankfully the supporting cast of Let's Play is really fun and mostly likable. Sam's guildmates are an eclectic group of weirdos pulled from all walks of life, brought together over a common love of gaming despite having personalities that can clash pretty harshly, and one of them being a real douchebag, and it's really fun to watch them bounce off each other. Her co-workers get a little less screen time, but likewise are very quirky and likable. Her dad, in particular, is an absolute delight whenever he's on the page. An over-emotional bear of a man who reminds me a lot of General Armstrong from Fullmetal Alchemist, aka the best character in that show. On top of Marshall, Sam has two more apparent love interests in her old friend Link, a manly, outdoorsy type who works at the coffee shop near her office, and her manager Charles, a sophisticated high society guy who is the definition of smooth, but also a bit of a jerk, and maybe more than a bit if recent developments are going where they seem to be. There's a tangible romantic tension when Sam is with both of them, and Link in particular is such a sweetheart that you really want to root for him. But neither of them is with Sam in the comic's banner, so at the end of the day, I'm just going to root for him to be let down easy. For secondary love interests, they're each really well developed and charming in their own ways, and I'm glad the comic didn't just make them sexy shirtless afterthoughts. On that note, in case you couldn't guess, Let's Play's target audience is predominantly female, and it lays on the man service thick at times. The rippling, often glistening abs aren't what I'm personally here for, but I can appreciate that they're well drawn, and anyone who is here for those will not leave disappointed. And to balance things out, the female supporting cast is full of babes. While, as you can see, the character art in Let's Play is really good, it is let down a bit by the CGI backgrounds, which range from decent to occasionally flat-out ugly, and look almost like stock Unity assets most of the time. The inconsistent lighting and art styles mean that even at the best of times, characters never really feel like they're in their surroundings. That said, this problem is mitigated by interesting angles and a generally solid sense of composition. The comic's panels are pleasing to the eye in spite of the inconsistency. Let's Play also makes use of web-only features like music and animated GIFs to enhance key moments, which go a long way to make it feel premium in spite of the small shortcomings. And if kinda ugly backgrounds are what we have to trade to get 30+ panels of this great love story every week, you know what? I'll take it. As for the story, if I have one complaint, it's that the main characters might be just a little too well off, and not just the ViewTube famous Marshall. Sam's the daughter of a dot-com millionaire and a rich actress, so even if her game design ambitions fail, she's got a golden safety net waiting to catch her. This pseudo-escapist fantasy focus on the life of the rich isn't out of step with the K-dramas that seem to have inspired Let's Play, but it does make it a bit harder to relate, which is only partly alleviated by the comic's use of game references. The bigger issue is that it kind of inherently lowers the stakes. Sam's indie game career has been made much more difficult by what Marshall does, but she's not in a position where she has to give up on game development forever if this one doesn't work out. Unlike most people trying to do what she's trying to do, this doesn't mean that her dream is anywhere near dead. At worst, it's just delayed. But there is an upside to the characters having such cushy, at least on paper, lives. One of the comic's strongest underlying themes is the characters coping with invisible problems, social anxiety, depression, anger issues, which are anthropomorphized as big-headed emote-coons that loom over the characters whenever their mental problems literally rear their ugly heads. Issues like depression and anxiety can cripple you no matter how good your life might seem to be from the outside, and showing all of these characters leading generally crappy lives might have obfuscated that and sent the message that those things have to have an external cause. By showing a rich, intelligent, beautiful girl like Sam dealing with fear of confrontation and lack of self-confidence, or a famous, generally nice dude like Marshall bottling up deep-seated depression, the comic says that these things can affect anyone. That's a really good message for any work that deals with these themes to send, and seeing these characters go through things that I've struggled with myself goes a long way toward bringing them back down to earth. Small complaints aside, Let's Play has all the fundamentals of a great romantic comedy down. It'll make you laugh and maybe even cry, and it gets a lot of little things right that set it apart. Despite having its share of melodrama and inexplicable anime weirdness, it feels very grounded and real. I think just about anyone reading it will find someone they can relate to in the cast, and just about any gamer who picks it up will appreciate how well it gets the gamer mindset. I'm giving Let's Play a silver medal rating, and I highly recommend clicking the link in the doobly-doo to download the Webtoon app and give it a read for yourself today. On top of Let's Play, Webtoon has a ton of other great comics, enough to keep you entertained basically forever, as well as a Discover page where you can read submissions from aspiring independent creators if you want to take a chance on something new. Before you click that link, if you enjoyed seeing this different kind of video from me, let me know in the comments below and tell me what other webtoons and maybe manga or comics you'd like to see me review in the future. While you're down there, don't forget to also click the subscribe button if you haven't already to make sure you catch more videos about anime, sometimes games, and maybe comics in the future on Mother's Basement. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.